This is the presentation for Chapter 6, Section 1, A Changing Landscape. Remember, as you're listening to this presentation, to fill in your notes for your science notebook and make sure you pause the video as needed so you get all of the correct information. For this lesson, we are going to be going over one learning objective. So there's one primary output for this that we're going to talk about, and that is to describe human activities that can affect the biosphere. So as we go here, the first thing that we think about is Earth itself, the entire Earth as an island. And when we think about islands, islands are all by themselves. There's no roads onto or off of the island. And so what happens is the inhabitants of these islands have to fend for themselves and use the resources of that island. So Earth could be considered an island itself, where because all organisms on Earth share a limited resource base and depend on it for their long-term survival. So we depend on the resources of Earth to keep providing for what we need: food, shelter, reproductive things, and that's why it's a limited resource, because there's a lot of things that are out there that if they are gone, once they're gone forever. So our job is to protect these resources so that we can continue to use them. And in order to protect these resources, we need to understand how humans interact with this biosphere. So that brings us to our key concept question. And the question asks, what type of human activities can affect the biosphere? Well, some human activities that can affect the biosphere include hunting and gathering, which is kind of, it says, it speaks for itself. Hunting is where you go out and you hunt for your food, and then gathering is for gathering substances like berries and other things, and this affects the biosphere. Agriculture, which is farming. Industry, which is where businesses create the goods that we need. And then the last one is urban development, which is the development and location of cities and the growth of cities into larger and larger places. The Green Revolution, this was an effort in the mid-20th century, so somewhere between 1940s and 1960s, and this helped to increase global food production through modern plant breeding and agricultural techniques. And what the result of this was is that over the last 50 years, the Green Revolution has helped the world food production double, so that's a good thing. Changes for the future. What we would like to see, or what we need to see in the future of agriculture and creating our own food is, while we increase these world food supplies, so the increase of the food supplies through the Green Revolution, these modern agriculture has created ecological challenges. For example, monoculture, which is one of your vocabulary words, and it means that you plant one type of plant over and over and over in the same area. And this leads to problems with insect pests and diseases, which can affect the crops. And then also finding enough water for irrigation. So there's some locations on Earth where there's not water readily available, and that creates a problem because in order for plants to grow, they need water. So some of these are some challenges for the future of this Green Revolution to keep sustaining these plants and these crops that are coming into the world. Industry growth and urban development. These are two things that have a huge impact on the biosphere and the human society in general, and had its impact on the biosphere were transformed by the Industrial Revolution, which added machines and factories to civilization. So now we've got these machines and factories that can mass create these goods and services and be sold out to different places, locations, and it makes life easier for certain things, but it also creates there's some byproducts like smog and waste, and these types of things that are going to affect but the biosphere itself also. The urban development piece of it is where you get these factories, and then you get all of these houses and these places that start to collect people, and people want to move to where the jobs are, and the jobs are where the factories are. So the cities start to get built up, and what you end up with is a city that's having a hard time sustaining itself because it doesn't have enough room, it doesn't have enough space, it doesn't have enough resources like food and the garbage disposal and things like that that you need to maintain an area, and that starts to become an issue as well. So here's a little cartoon, and it just kind of shows that, you know, these people in the middle here, these guys in the middle, they've got their house, and everybody seems to be moving towards the city, towards the landscape out here where the factories are. And as you could see on the sign, that it used to be 50 kilometers away, and then it's got big enough where it was only 30 kilometers away, and now the city is only 10 kilometers away. And these people, they're just going to wait for the city to come to them, because eventually that's what happens when you have urban development, is the city spreads out farther and farther. The city of Holland and the city of Zeeland used to be very different, and now they kind of blend together as to where their city limits lie. Same thing with the south side of town, and it kind of branched up into the north side of Holland as well. And now what we're seeing is there's less and less space between Holland and Grand Haven, so that over time Grand Haven is coming more south and Holland is moving more north. Eventually what will happen most likely is that there will be less space between the two cities as well. And that's all part of urban development. Now with these developments, you need energy, and energy to run these machines that they are able to mass produce their products on. Most of this energy comes from fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas. And fossil fuels are found in the ground, and they are mined. So the gas we get in our cars, the oil that we use to change it, the coal that runs a lot of these things, the natural gas that might warm your home, this all comes from the ground. The thing about fossil fuels is that it is a limited resource, and once it's gone, it's gone. And it also has some pretty nasty byproducts when you burn it into the air. So this suburban growth, it starts to consume this farmland. So like I said, how we talked about moving between Holland and Grand Haven, and you get less and less and less space. It starts to consume that farmland, and it starts to stress those native plants and animals, and it ends up changing the biosphere. It changes the animals, it changes the land, and you can't ever get that back. And then you get rid of plants and they become extinct. So for Chapter 6.1, the Learning Objective Review, the question asks, which human activities can affect the biosphere? And what we talked about were that some human activities that can affect the biosphere include hunting and gathering, agriculture, industry, and urban development. Thanks for listening. I hope you got all your notes completely filled in. If not, rewind the video, listen to what you need to, and we'll see you next time around.